And we're back. Let's do it, guys. Lachlan Giles Submeta Berimbolo course. That's right, not instructional. Course. Just like how he innovated and pioneered leg locks, he's now innovating and pioneering the digital coaching space, but we'll get into that later. Firstly, let's talk about the layout. I mentioned before in other instructionals my critique of some of their layouts. Layouts matter. You're not a demonstrator. This is an instructional. You are an instructor. Make it cohesive, make it digestible. So much of instructionals are just a collection of techniques with no rhyme or reason to their order, but not here. You can tell here that Dr. Giles has a PhD because he lays the course out in categories, then subcategories with an overview in the beginning. Nicky Rod's instructional was a bit better in the sense that he demonstrated the move over and over from the start before he went into the detail, so you know what it is, without hearing a monologue in the beginning, so you could use it as sort of a bookmark, but Giles takes it to another level with his top-tier digestible editing. He doesn't have you listen to his spiel looking at his face the whole time. He cuts to shots of the technique as he's talking in the overview, and again he nails it by talking and demonstrating a technique once, and then cuts to a montage of the move with all the angles. Bravo, Mr. Dr. Giles, bravo. No more listening to the guy talk about the move and then the step-by-step explanation over and over as him and the Uki reposition dragging the instructional out further before explaining it over again as they move to yet another angle and on and on. He's even got the overview which boils down the whole instructional just enough to where you can kind of get the whole gist before even getting into the instructional. He could have even sold just the overview at a cheaper price, and if students couldn't do a particular move but could figure out the others, they could hypothetically buy just the one they needed. But enough can't be said about how much Submeta compartmentalizes everything for you in the categories and subcategories. He even takes what he says to be one of the most complicated areas of Jiu-Jitsu and boils it down to 3 categories: the wedge, the crab, and the reverse half guard. Anywhere else you could take that information and find your own resources on the internet, but this is where I can justify the course as a whole, because he designed it as a whole product, as a course. He actually tried to help you understand it, down to the layout, compartmentalized categories and digestible editing. He gets to the point and knows when to not over-explain things and to save it for later on, to a later point of your understanding of the Berimbolo. Now the Berimbolo, if you've ever looked at it, is a situation you'd be hard-pressed to find anywhere outside of Jiu-Jitsu or a freaky bedroom. Much like early days leglocks, it was stigmatized in Nogi mostly due to the lack of grips. Some people threw it in the bin and other more, let's say, open-minded people stuck around to workshop it. If you're a wrestler or MMA fighter of some sort, I would have said you'd have the hardest time getting used to it, but on second thought I'm not so sure. I think it might click for you more than passing the guard, because all or most of the principles for wrestling go out the window when passing. Your overhook on a guard player could be a liability. Your underhook on a guard player could be a liability, especially if they have their knee or legs involved. All your best positions for all your favorite takedowns don't matter because they've already been taken down and there's no back exposure when their backs are on the mat. Take the fence in MMA. The fence is your frenemy. On the one hand, you can be pressured back enough for the opponent to close in on you. On the other hand, the fence can hold you up and even keep him in front of you. There's even been cases where fighters have used it as a platform. Flip the fence horizontal, and the same thing can be said for the floor. The floor can also be your frenemy. Now the wrestler might not be familiar with being face to face with an opponent with 2 limbs working in conjunction with his 2 other limbs, where just the orientation of the guard player doesn't allow him upper body grips easily, and there's not that much incentive to take him down at the lower body. He can't get an angle on him to take the back because there's no back exposure due to the floor, and yet there's all the back exposure in the world available for the bottom player. Normally wrestlers think from their perspective. They're taught if the opponent's head's higher than theirs to shoot, and if their head's lower than theirs, snap them down. So naturally they all think front headlock. But these annoying guard players and their legs, the wrestler finds out they can't front headlock that easily when the bottom guy's curled like a ball, especially when their legs and frames are in play and they rock back and forth. So you can't go through it, you can't go over it. Where else can the wrestler go? Can you guess? Let's have the wrestler smoke some jazz cabbage and flip the fence/floor once again, so the floor is now the roof. Does this position look familiar? Jason Rao said on a podcast once,
I think what makes somebody good at jiu-jitsu is like a unique ability to recognize patterns, really pattern recognition in all these intricate various positions we find ourselves in, and be able to apply like a movement they learned in one position and apply it in multiple positions where that movement is applicable. So for example, like a new student who comes in sees an armbar from guard, and then they like figure out in their head without being taught, like, wait, I can do this from out, I can do this from here, I can do this from here. And I think inherently that's what makes somebody good at jiu-jitsu. from a technical perspective, is being able to kind of decipher all these positions in their head and these like complex body positions of my arm is here, your leg is here, whatnot, and kind of recognize the patterns of those positions and then apply them in other situations.
If you said under it, you're on the money. I'm not one for Japanese terminology, but I will say when you use words like Kasoto hook, reverse Turk, padlock and apply it to various different positions, you'll start to look at the hook itself rather than the orientation and be able to reverse engineer it. Kind of like how Sakuraba looked at the Kimura as the position despite the orientation. You'll open your mind and see how rigid your mind has been indoctrinated to be. When it's a battle of asymmetrical back exposure, give up the ippon and glue your back to the mat. It's now your frenemy. Start using it to creep up underneath. The era of butt scooting is over. It's now butt sniffing. Lachlan Giles is a smaller guy. On Wikipedia it says he's 5 inches 6 and he's in his 30s and still giving the younger guys a run for their money. This is a good example of how the old-timer invested in all the timeless attributes that suited his style. If you're this body type, don't go for strength, go for flexibility. Flexibility, timing, knowledge, these things you keep with old age. Speed, strength, power, these things fade with time. It was cool to see what would happen when two back attackers collided, the annoyingly flexible supine guard player versus the scrappy, wrestling, and supposedly spazziest backtaker in Ethan Creelinston, incrementally slithering up underneath his back. With even Nicky having a hard time passing his guard, it seems like there's more of an incentive to just throw up a submission before position. For anyone that has rolled against those annoying flexible Lachlan Giles or Mikey Musumeci type supine players, you know what a nightmare it is when they know how to bolo as well. Especially when their guard retention makes it so you're always in danger, where they have two ranges of defense you have to traverse through, their retention and their escapes into counter-offense, from the side and north-south, so you have to walk through 2 layers of landmines and booby traps at 360 degrees. Adding bolos, wedges, crab rides to your game is a no-brainer, especially lately. Other instructionals however might gloss over them with fast opportunistic timing-based wedges, maybe focusing more on the entries and setups as counters to the leg lock. Whereas Giles has a more comprehensive, incrementally detailed approach to the position, even going through gi and no gi. Giles even mentions in the beginning that you can beat even really good grapplers when you put them in these complicated positions. Now I'm gonna switch gears a little bit here, but from what I understand, bjjfanatics take around about half the cut of the instructional sales in exchange for their marketing services. But when they're doing things like slapping Bernardo's favorite dubstep songs on them.
Welcome.
I can see why other guys are going to their own platforms like Submeta, where they keep all the profit. Giles gets it. You're not selling a collection of techniques, you're selling your knowledge, your perspective, your own ideas on grappling. You can find techniques anywhere online. It's the black belt insights people pay for. When you own a gym, it's your students that do the marketing for your gym, so if you sell techniques, you could be selling techniques for athletes from other gyms marketing their success from your knowledge. So Giles makes it a subscription-based course, so his real gym is online. But I'll take it one step further, and I hate doing this because I love Bernardo, but this is going to happen sooner or later. Some guys have already adopted other course builders and platforms like Thinkific, but a lot of them don't realize that there's an affiliate marketing and assignment function on them. Look at how Andrew Tate populated the internet. He had Hustlers University, a course where he created an affiliate program for everyone that sold his course. They got a percentage of commission with no risk to him. If they don't sell, he doesn't lose anything. Thinkific are one of the few course builders that have an affiliate marketing program and assignments. So imagine this. Imagine you're Johnny Ocasio. Yes, I know he didn't invent the Z-Lock, but Eddie Cummings isn't around, so we're just gonna go with him. Imagine you have a Z-Lock instructional before Z-Locks were prominent in the Jiu-Jitsu scene and you want to sell it. Why not sell it through a course where you set an assignment titled, Hit the Z-Lock in a competition, and upload it to social media and tag, Johnny Ocasio complete Z-Lock breakdown. And only once you upload a video submission can you unlock the next section of the course. This function is on Thinkific. Firstly, it's going to be harder to pirate as you'll know who pirated it. And secondly, the marketing for your course speaks through your students, and thirdly, if you set an affiliate marketing program and give them a link to put in their bio, they get paid, and you also get paid. If this sounds like an ad, that's because it originally was going to be. I was initially going to try and be an affiliate for Thinkific and give the Jiu-Jitsu community a link to the course builder so I could shamelessly get some commission. But the bastards won't accept me, maybe because of some of the off-color jokes I have on my channel. Oh well, when they all try to take credit, just remember who said it first. This humble genius. But doesn't have to be Thinkific, it can be any other course builder that have these functions. I'm sorry Bernardo, but you're going to have to add these features or perks to BJJ Fanatics, or people are going to wise up and Fanatics will fall behind the wayside. Or at the very least ease up on the dubstep and please make the app more user-friendly. Lachlan Giles Submeta Berimbolo, 5 out of 5 PhDs.